Hello. I don't know whether in the last hour you've seen the news. Nadine Dorries, the new Minister for the Arts, Culture, Digital, whatever. It's a strange acronym. I can never remember the order. DC. I'm going to give up even attempting it one. But Nadine Dorries has been kicked off a WhatsApp site, a conservative WhatsApp site for praising Boris. And she's been kicked off by a former minister who didn't like what she was saying. Not appropriate to praise the Prime Minister in a conservative-leaning WhatsApp site. Extraordinary. It tells you where we've got to at this particular moment. Now, I have nothing positive to say about Nadine Dorries. This is a lady who I wrote to in September, and she still hasn't bothered to reply to my letter. I find that rude. I've also enlisted the help of my local MP, and I've still not got a reply from Nadine Dorries. I expect one, and maybe tomorrow I'll go into the details about what I was writing about and why it's so necessary. It seems to me that if a minister cannot be bothered to reply to a letter, then that was sent in September, it doesn't say a great deal about the ministerial competence. But maybe her real job is to promote loyalty in the Prime Minister. Maybe that's why she was promoted to ministerial office, not because she has an interest in the arts, not because she can actually do her job. Now, Lord Frost has just resigned. Lord Frost was the man who was tasked with delivering Brexit. All he seems to have done is kick up a fuss in France and in Ireland. As far as I can see, Brexit is done. And what we now need to do is make as smooth a transition as possible. What Lord Frost has done is to mire the waters. So actually, 3 cheers that he's gone. 3 cheers. If he doesn't like what Boris is doing, great. I must say, I don't really like what he's been doing. But then let's look more closely at what Nadine Dorries claimed. The hero is the PM who delivered Brexit. Old news. Old news, and some of us would question that. But it's old news. You can't keep raking up the old news when there's new things happening. We have to look forward. We have to we have to also question Boris's judgment. Is Boris a good judge of people? Look at the people that Boris has appointed to cabinet positions. Let me just put on one of these decorations here. These are Russian. I got them a couple of years ago, and they get wheeled out each Christmas. That one's back to front. There we are. Look at the people that Boris has wheeled out. Matt Hancock. Unbelievable. Matt Hancock, the man whose soul is lodged in the stationery cupboard. Ooh, Mrs. Priti Patel, the lady who really has missed a treat and hasn't her real identity is in Scaros. She is one of these maniacal Dalek type figures. She doesn't listen, and more than that, every time she seems to get bad press, her answer is to rake around in her department to find yet another policy that she's never going to make good. This, again, is not somebody that I can have confidence in. Dominic Raab, the man who was caught sleeping on the job in Crete, slapping on some number 10. He's now the sort of spokesman for our government. It's absurd. And he's in the Justice Ministry. Even more absurd. Nadine Dorries says that regicide is in the DNA of the Conservative Party. And yet she's questioning that, and she's commanding loyalty to the Prime Minister. Regicide is in the DNA of the Conservative Party. Well, that's a little bit rich. What the Conservative Party has done, ruthlessly, is got rid of leaders that it thought were not going to win the next election. You can think of Mrs. Thatcher. And the rumblings at the moment that Boris is being placed on notice. This is absurd. This is completely absurd. Either get rid of him or keep him. But when we go back to, let's say, Macmillan, what do we have there? We have we have a much better understanding of the Conservative mindset. An element of complacency, an element of sleaze, and a soldiering on. We've got all that at the moment. Complacency and sleaze and soldiering on. And of those three, complacency, you've never had it so good. Complacency, sleaze and soldiering on. And of those three, there's only one which actually merits approval and praise, and that's soldiering on. The whole point about government is about dealing with reality as it is rather than as it should be. And so now let's look at those people who are actually dealing with it as it is. Well, I don't know whether there's very many. There's Sajid Javid today saying that we may have hinting that there may be a bigger response to the rise of Omicron. In other words, he's threatening some sort of extra lockdown, or perhaps not quite a lockdown. I think, for what it's worth, I think we shouldn't be looking at further lockdowns. We shouldn't be looking at further legislation to restrict us. We should be looking at encouraging our sense of responsibility. It is already there. People are pulling back from meetings. People are pulling back from parties at this moment. They are trying to salvage the opportunity of having what Christmas they can. And the job of government at this moment, I think, should be to legislate for support, and particularly support for the entertainment industry, the hospitality industry, the NHS and the vital services. That's the support it should be offering. Instead, I think it's looking at further restrictions and treating us like a sort of nanny state. This is not in the instincts of the Conservative Party. Nadine Dorries is probably right from that point of view. But I don't think that a government that has been caught having parties and giggling at the population that it is commanded to stay inside is likely to command respect. So Boris's job in the next few days is to command respect. I don't think Nadine Dorries has done him any favours. I don't think Matt Hancock has done him any favours. I don't think, really, many of his ministers are actually helping. We need a new Boris. We need a new Prime Minister. But we need a fresh start. And we need to recognise that we, the people, are mature enough to know what is the right thing to do. We need to be given the option to take responsibility rather than to be pummeled with further laws that actually cannot be properly enforced. So there we are. Do follow my channel and do ring the bell. I'd be really pleased to know what you think on this.